The Ravens season has been a roller coaster, and if you're paying attention, the biggest story might not even be on the stat sheet, it's the offensive line, and for weeks now, the questions just keep piling up. You've got Myles Garrett and that defense looking sharp. And yes, they make life easier for the offense at times. But there's no excuse for the way the Ravens have been struggling up front every week. Fans and analysts alike have been asking, will John Harbaugh make a change? The debate has been constant. You look at the tape, and it's clear that the offensive line is far from perfect. Yet when asked about it, Harbaugh has doubled down in a way that many see as a slap in the face. He's essentially said, we're putting our best 5 players out there, and they're playing well, that's it. End of discussion, but it doesn't match reality. Watching the games, looking at the stats, it's hard to call what we're seeing pretty darn good. There's a stubbornness here that's palpable. Harbaugh has been asked about potential changes almost every week, and the message is the same. The 5 guys who are performing the best are the ones on the field, and that's the group we'll stick with. But if you look at their play week after week, it's obvious there's a major gap between the perception being presented and the performance being delivered. Fans are frustrated, and it's hard not to be. The offensive line is supposed to protect Lamar Jackson, to give him time to make plays, and to help this offense operate smoothly, but instead, we see too many instances of missed blocks, blown assignments, and players getting tossed around. It's not a universal problem every single game, but enough games have highlighted weaknesses that it's impossible to ignore. If you break it down statistically, the picture becomes even clearer. Run blocking has been inconsistent, with some players holding up decently and others faltering repeatedly. Andrew Voorhees had a solid grade 1 week, but other linemen struggled significantly. And pass protection has been even more concerning. Some names stand out for negative reasons, and the tape backs it up. Daniel Fowle and Roger Rosenert, in particular, have been inconsistent over the course of the season. Ronnie Stanley, a cornerstone of the line, has had some weeks that simply were not up to par. Yet, despite all of this, the response from the head coach is essentially, they're trying and they're fighting. And while that sentiment is admirable on a surface level, it doesn't address the real issue. The quarterback is taking repeated hits, and the offense is limited by the inability of the line to consistently execute. The concern isn't hypothetical. Lamar Jackson has already dealt with injuries, including a hamstring and knee issues. And every snap where he's pressured unnecessarily adds risk to his health. He's one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the league, capable of creating magic even when the line fails him. But asking him to carry this unit week after week is unfair. You can see it on the field. There are moments where he has to scramble, tuck, and run simply because the protection isn't there. And while his athleticism can mask flaws, it doesn't erase the problem. In a perfect world, the Ravens would find a way to adjust the lineup, to plug in players who can give him better protection, and to strengthen the unit collectively. Historically, this team has not been afraid to make mid-season adjustments to key positions. Look back to seasons where changes were made to improve results. The principle remains, if something isn't working, try something different. Yet here we are, 11 weeks in, and the changes are minimal to non-existent. The reasoning given often revolves around continuity, the importance of keeping the line together, and the hope that the group will gel. Continuity is valuable, sure, but it's not a blanket excuse for underperformance. If the results aren't there, staying the course can end up being more harmful than beneficial. Watching the tape, it's hard to see confidence in this line as a collective unit. There are flashes of competence, moments where plays come together, but as a whole, the unit has not consistently shown it can meet the demands of the season or protect a franchise quarterback effectively. Harbaugh's defense of the group, though well-intentioned, feels more like a shield than a solution. Saying they fight and compete doesn't fix blown blocks or missed assignments. It doesn't make the quarterback's job any easier. And it certainly doesn't inspire confidence in the fan base that the team is doing everything it can to maximize performance. It's not just about criticism for criticism's sake. This is about the health of the team's most valuable player and the future of their offense in the postseason. When stronger defenses come calling, the margin for error shrinks. A shaky offensive line might be manageable against certain teams, but it will be exploited against others, and yet, the opportunity to make adjustments is being passed by. Even if the difference is marginal, even if it's a one-for-one swap, trying something new could provide protection, give Lamar Jackson more space to operate, and improve offensive efficiency. Instead, the line continues in its current state. leaving fans to watch their quarterback navigate chaos with courage and determination, all while enduring hits that no one should have to take on a regular basis. The situation isn't simple. Injuries, depth, and player development all factor in. Losing key contributors in the offseason has left gaps, and the replacements haven't consistently performed. But the principle remains: protecting Lamar Jackson should be the absolute priority. Asking him to compensate for a line that struggles repeatedly is putting the team at risk, both in the short term and long term. Watching the games, seeing the scramble after scramble, it's impossible to ignore the tension between potential and execution. Fans want to believe the line can turn a corner, and maybe it will, but after 11 weeks, the evidence for optimism is thin. This isn't about expecting perfection. It's about demanding competence at a critical position that directly impacts the team's success. What's perhaps most frustrating is that there's precedent for making changes mid-season. The Ravens have done it in the past when things weren't working. Adjustments, rotations, and swaps have proven to elevate units that were struggling. The argument for continuity only holds if the unit is showing improvement, growth, or at least competence. When the offensive line continues to allow pressure, when key players are inconsistent, the rationale for standing pat begins to feel more like stubbornness than strategy. And while coaches naturally want to believe in their players, faith alone does not win games or protect a franchise quarterback. Lamar Jackson deserves the best possible chance to succeed, and the offensive line should be built around that principle. Even as you watch, it's clear Lamar is extraordinary. His ability to improvise, extend plays, and make something out of nothing is what keeps this offense alive. But relying on his talent to mask structural weaknesses week after week is not sustainable. So far, the defense has carried much of the weight, and the offense has managed flashes of brilliance. But the offensive line remains the weak link. The question remains, how long can this approach last before the cost outweighs the benefit? As the season progresses and tougher opponents await, the need for decisive action becomes increasingly urgent. Every play where Lamar is pressured unnecessarily is a play too many, and while fighting and competing are admirable, they cannot replace effective blocking or consistent execution. Now, moving beyond the offensive line, the questions around Lamar Jackson's performance this season have also started to pile up. After the Week 11 clash with Cleveland, there's been plenty of chatter from former players and analysts questioning his mindset, and it sparked some real debate. Some critics suggested that Lamar looked hesitant, timid even, on the field, that he wasn't extending plays the way he has in past seasons, and that the frustration was visible every time he returned to the bench. But here's the thing about Lamar: his competitive drive is unlike almost anyone else in the league. He isn't playing scared, he's playing smart within the context of what the team can sustain. He wants perfection, not just from his teammates, but from himself. And when things don't go exactly as planned, he internalizes it, that visible frustration. That's the weight of accountability, not weakness. Watching Lamar week after week, it's clear he's carrying more than just the physical burden of the game. There's a mental strain to performing at this level while dealing with nagging injuries and an inconsistent offensive line. The hamstring, the knee, it's not just about whether he can step on the field, it's about whether he can operate at his highest level without risking further injury. And make no mistake, he's still playing through pain. Lamar is still making plays that seem impossible, still escaping pressure, still making throws that most quarterbacks couldn't even dream of attempting. But the effort required to compensate for the line, to scramble, to extend plays, to mask blown blocks, is exhausting. You can see it in the way he moves, the subtle changes in his gait, the hesitation just a fraction of a second longer than usual when the pocket collapses. It's the difference between peak efficiency and survival mode. This is where the coaching philosophy comes into play. Harbaugh's decision to stick with the current line is a gamble. The hope is that continuity breeds chemistry, that the unit will eventually click and provide the protection Lamar needs. But at 11 games in, the evidence of consistent improvement is thin. The opportunity to mix and match, to try new combinations, to find a lineup that can perform at a higher level has been available, yet largely ignored. And while it's true that continuity matters, it cannot be the ultimate excuse for underperformance. The reality is that Lamar is being asked to cover up for his teammates' mistakes, and while he excels at it, the margin for error is shrinking. In tougher matchups against defenses that are faster, smarter, and more disciplined than Cleveland, the consequences of maintaining the status quo could be severe. Looking at the bigger picture, The Ravens are at a critical juncture. The postseason looms, and the competition is about to get significantly stiffer. Opponents will exploit weaknesses, and a shaky offensive line can be the difference between a deep playoff run and an early exit. Lamar Jackson's ability to improvise will carry them only so far. The defense has been phenomenal, yes, and they've been able to mask some of the offensive shortcomings. But you cannot rely on that indefinitely. Eventually, the pressure mounts, the hits accumulate, and the margin for error disappears. The question for the coaching staff is simple: do they continue to hope this group develops into something it hasn't yet shown it can be? Or do they make calculated changes to give their franchise quarterback a fighting chance, adding fuel to the discussion? Former NFL players like Damon Harris have voiced concerns, noting a perceived hesitancy in Lamar's play. Observers pointed to moments where he could have climbed the pocket, extended plays, or taken advantage of openings that weren't being utilized. The theory is that he might be holding back due to lingering injuries or trying to protect himself, but anyone who has followed Lamar's career knows that he's one of the most fearless athletes in the league. He pushes his body further than almost anyone, and when he seems frustrated, it's because he knows he can do more and expects more. That frustration isn't a flaw. It's evidence of a player holding himself to an impossibly high standard, and that's part of what makes the Ravens' situation so delicate. You have a quarterback who is extraordinary, but also one who carries the weight of his team's shortcomings. He's putting his body on the line week after week, and the protection behind him isn't consistent. The coaching staff has to balance loyalty to players with the urgent need to create an environment where Lamar can operate at peak performance. It's a precarious position. Fans can see the plays where he scrambles to avoid a sack, or where a missed block forces him to throw off balance, and they know the risk is real. These are the moments that can define a season, and they're happening far too often. The broader implications are also worth considering. An offense that struggles to protect its quarterback is limited in what it can achieve. Opportunities are missed, drives stall, and points are left off the board. Lamar's unique skill set allows the team to mask these deficiencies, but it's not sustainable at the highest level. Each snap where he's pressured unnecessarily is a gamble, and the cumulative effect of that pressure can be seen not just in statistics, but in his physical condition, his decision-making, and ultimately, the team's trajectory. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. A simple message, just 3 words, burst across social media and instantly set the football world buzzing. Thank you, Baltimore. No explanation, no follow-up, no cryptic emoji yet. That was all DeAndre Hopkins needed to spark a storm of speculation. Within minutes, fans, reporters, and even former teammates were scrambling to decode what felt less like a goodbye whisper and more like a farewell echo reverberating through the league. What makes the moment even more gripping is the tone behind the statement. Those close to Hopkins described the gesture as unusually sentimental, almost nostalgic, as if he were closing not just a chapter, but an entire volume of his career. Baltimore supporters flooded timelines with appreciation and disbelief, while rival fan bases wasted no time pitching their teams like recruiters at an open tryout. Rumors are swirling from every corner of the league. Some insist Hopkins has already been in quiet conversations with a contender seeking a final piece for a championship push. Others believe he is eyeing a reunion with a familiar quarterback, a move that would instantly shift the balance of power. There's even talk, half whisper, half wish, that he could be preparing to take on a leadership role with a younger roster, bringing experience and swagger to a team hungry for identity. Despite all the noise, the only thing certain is that Hopkins himself seems at peace. The farewell felt less like frustration and more like gratitude, almost as if he is stepping away from Baltimore with respect rather than regret. It leaves the impression that his next destination isn't a desperate leap, but a calculated stride toward something he has been quietly planning for months. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.